282-0685. Thank you, Deacon Renee Wise. That's our station manager here at the Boston Praise Radio and TV Network. Kingdom greetings and God's richest blessings be multiplied to you and yours. Again, you're tuned into another segment of Healing Our Land's live interactive broadcast exclusively here on the Boston Praise Radio and TV Network, www.bostonpraiseradio.tv. We're on WLPG-LP 102.9 on your FM dial. We'll also be on Pastor Bruce Wall's Facebook page, and you can call in live at 617-282-0685, 617-282-7794, or 617-265-2679. We've got a full evening lined up for you. A lot going on with empowering descendant communities to unlock democracy, a program of Healing Our Land. We also will have a guest. Dr. Guam will be with us momentarily from 4 p.m. through to 5 p.m. And we will have Andrea James, who is running for governor here on an independent platform for governor of the state of Massachusetts. She'll be with us from 5 to 6 p.m. And then we have our weekly coalition meeting for empowering the Senate communities to unlock democracy, 6 p.m. So we are busy, but we're being productive, and we're just grateful for the opportunity to be here on Boston Praise Radio and TV Network. By way of announcement, mark your calendar for our next fundraiser for WBPG-LP 102.9. We're doing our fundraiser every month. We're doing a telethon here in the studio, and we're encouraging you to have other people join us. That's June. Nope, forgive me, that one just passed. Bear with me. It's actually July 25th. Sunday, July 25th, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And I do not have the flyer, but that is the date. Save the date for July 26th. Forgive me, July 26th. Sunday, July 26th, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. for the next telethon to raise resources for Boston Praise Radio.tv, our FM platform, WBPG-LP 102.9, Boston's only FCC licensed multimedia platform that's Black-owned, church-based. The founder is our Senior Pastor Bruce Wall. By way of announcement, he will be transitioning to Pastor Emeritus on August 30th. Will be the last Sunday that he will be preaching in the pulpit. We're encouraging you to come to the church and be a part of that historic momentous occasion. There will be a celebration that will happen later on. You can stay tuned to find out more details about the celebration, as I'm sure tickets will sell out rapidly, because we want to honor and celebrate 33 years of pastoring here at Global Ministries Christian Church. Again, 617-282-0685, www.bostonpraiseradio.tv. So Healing Our Land and Empowering the Senate Communities is working to restore the rights for people serving felony convictions to vote in the state of Massachusetts that was stripped from them in 2000. That was stripped from them via Governor Cellucci, who felt that was too much power for people whom I believe the essence of what was said was, if people can't follow the rules, then they don't deserve the right to vote. Though I thought the preamble said that all men are given these unalienable rights. And so that means they should not be, that they're given by God, that people should be able to be engaged in their democracy and in their governance, and determining who's going to be the sheriff, who's going to be the district attorney, who's going to be on the governor's council that picks judges all across the state of Massachusetts, that does commutations and pardons and affirms who's going to be on the parole board. So this is our system that affects our governance of our lives. So it's so important that people feel agency and the ability to be able to have a voice if they have committed a crime, that they are under the custody and care of the Department of Corrections to facilitate rehabilitation and not perpetual pain and punishment. So we've got to address the issues that underlie the behavior: trauma, mental health, substance abuse disorder, poverty. Those are some of the precursors that cause people to act out in ways that are maybe dysfunctional coping mechanisms. And so it shouldn't be a situation that is just perpetually punishing people for being subject to issues that maybe they're not even, that are not of their own doing. So we want to create communities of care that we're looking out for each other. And that's what the Bible's called for us to do. Healing Our Land's ministry, comes from 2 Chronicles 7:14 that says, if my people who are called by my name would humble ourselves and pray and seek God's face and turn from our respective wicked ways, that God will hear from heaven the sacrifice that are acceptable to him, which are a broken spirit and a contrite heart. And so that's what we do micro, and we'll have an impact macro on our sphere of influence by our yes to God as we overcome the accusation of the enemy by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony, loving out our lives unto death. So pray for me, pray for Healing Our Land. The Bible says the harvest is ripe, but the laborers are few. So to pray that God would send laborers into the vineyard. Hello there. If you wouldn't mind just sitting right over there. Good to see you, Dr. Guan. Thank you for being here. Awesome. Yes. And actually, we have to, we're not supposed to have things on the stuff. No, you just didn't know. He should have told you that. But if you can just maybe put it on the floor just so, or just so they don't see it if it should spill. So yes, Dr. Guan, while she's getting settled, I'm so grateful. I had the privilege of meeting Dr. Guan in, was it? Oh no, let me get it. It was the Tabernacle of Praise. Pastor Montero Bino. They had a mental health conference, and I had the opportunity to participate and meet so many wonderful people with particular skill sets. And Dr. Guan was very, very impressive. And so we're just grateful that she could take time out of her busy schedule to come and be on our broadcast and engage our listening and our viewing audience. Without further ado, how are you?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me. It's nice to see you again.
You as well.
Thank you.
You as well. So for those who don't know, I'm gonna turn this down and then
Sure.
back here. Okay. For those who don't know Dr. Guan, give a little bit of background. Who is Dr. Guan?
That is not an easy answer. I wear so many hats, to be honest with you. But in it all, my mission is really to bring awareness, break down barriers to stigmas surrounding people of color in particular, but also to help bridge the gap between those stigmas and mental health. I am a licensed mental health provider. I am a psychologist, particularly leadership psychology. So I do a lot of work grounded around Black women, and particularly within organizations. In fact, my dissertation was around how the strong Black woman schema influences leadership within organizations. And so with that being said, I either go into organizations, I deal with individuals. Even in my clinical practice, I'd like to tie in that same aspect of, let's talk about what leadership looks like. How can we destigmatize this image of strength that Black women in particularly are supposed to uphold at all times, right? And just reminding them that it's not a weakness to not always feel like you have to carry everything on your own. And funny enough, when I did my dissertation, my doc project, and I presented this to a team, a lot of the men in the room were like, hey, we want to know more about this as well, because we have wives that we don't quite understand. And it makes a lot of sense in terms of why she comes home so drained and tired all the time. And, I can go on and on about it, but that's, basically what I do. I'm also a mother. I am a business owner. I am a radio personality. I am on Urban Heat 98.1 FM every Tuesday night. That's what I do. I'm also an author. I have a line of books, self-help books, books on what I just discussed in terms of like leadership within organizations. I do a lot.
Wow. Now now I know you were at the conference with TTOP. Now you're a woman of faith.
I am. I'm not practicing in any particular church. I don't have a church home or anything like that, but I am a woman of faith.
And how does that inform your work?
I try, I really believe that my purpose is to help God.
Amen.
Right? Because a lot of times I hear from people, I don't need therapy. I have God. All we need is prayer, those sorts of things. And I always say, why can't you do both? God's tired. He needs a break. He wants me to help, right? He's put me in this position to give him a break. We will lean on him when we need to. But for now, let's give him a break and see what I can do to help.
That's amazing. Now, I'm gonna always go with the word because that's just, to me, everything else that's what's constant is the word. This is just me, right?
Yeah.
So there's the scripture that says, this is God speaking, I would that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. And I understand your soul meaning that's made up of your thoughts, your emotions, and your will.
Right.
So and we understand the Bible says, be transformed by the renewing of our mind. So the warfare is in our mind.
Absolutely.
So, trauma, right? And now, does your practice, is it trauma informed?
Absolutely. 100%.
Trauma informed.
Yeah. We are, I would say 80% people of color.
Awesome.
Right. And I think everyone comes with some trauma. I do believe everyone in some way has some form of trauma, whether it was witnessing something or having the firsthand experience of something traumatic or, vicarious trauma, generational trauma, those things that are kind of the epigenetics, the things that are kind of coming down through generations, right, that we are holding that are not really ours, but, it relates to us, but it's like maybe 3 or 4 generations removed from us, but we still are impacted by these things, right? And so with that, my focus is really trauma. And so when I built this practice, it was really about helping. Again, I have to say, and I get a lot from people about, you talk a lot about people of color, women of color, because that's what I relate with. For last time I recall, I was a woman of color and I've never been anything other, right? So my expertise is me.
Absolutely.
Right. And so I speak to that. And what I know is trauma. Growing up, where I grew up, how I grew up, the things that I've had to observe and absorb, right? It was so much that I had to deal with. I held a lot in as a child. And even as an adult, I was holding a lot in and not realizing I'm becoming desensitized to a lot that's going on around me. And it's really traumatic. These things. And I learned that, throughout the years, like, wow, I'm not supposed to think that, hearing a gunshot is normal, or it's not normal to have, people, walking up and down the street selling their body, like these sorts of things that we become desensitized to because we see it every day. And it's kind of like, oh yeah, no, big deal. It is a big deal. It is a big deal. And we don't realize how, even, the trauma within families, right? Sure. We talk about those things and how it's supposed to be kept quiet. You don't talk about it. It's swept under the rug. Let's ignore it, right? It's minimized. And I hear a lot of times like, well, why didn't they say something? If only they had told me, if only they had told someone. And it's like, you didn't give an opportunity for someone to open up and tell you. You told them, well, you have to pray about it. Go seek God. You can't, or you get blamed, right? That person gets blamed or at fault in some way, but they don't feel psychologically safe. And my work talks a lot about psychological safety and making someone feel that they can come and they can voice themselves and bring their, their whole selves to a room, whether it's an individual, a family member, or whomever, and just say, I need help, and not looked, shunned upon because they're seeking that guidance and that help. So yeah, we do a lot of work around that within my practice.
That's amazing. So for those whom, let me ask you, so for therapy and those kind of things oftentimes cost money, right?
Yes.
Insurance, right?
Yes.
Those kind of things. So that tends to be a barrier sometimes for people.
Absolutely.
So does your practice address different economic kinds of brackets, and what's your geographic scope?
Yeah, we do. We absolutely do. So we accept, I always say most Massachusetts insurances, because I'm pretty sure there's some that I'm not privy to that we don't accept, but we accept most, especially the Medicare, Medicaid, right? And so the Mass Health, the MBHPs, we accept those things. We also do a sliding scale for people who either don't have insurance or their insurance is not covering behavioral health. Because believe it or not every insurance plan covers that. And everyone's insurance plan is different. So just because your friend, has the same mass health, extension of insurance doesn't mean that your plan is exactly like your friends. If someone calls us and they ask for support around finding out what type of plan they have, if their plan actually covers behavioral health, we can help them with that because we do run eligibility checks to make sure that you are eligible for the service. If not, we absolutely work with people. We've had payment plans for individuals. We do sliding scales. We just really try to work with people where we can. And you had asked the second question, the demographics.
Yes.
So last time I ran the numbers, because the way that I have my referrals coming in, we do it in a way that we can at any point in time go in and generate a profile of like, what are our stats? And we were, I can't remember exactly the number, but like 80-90% people of color, individuals of color. My practice is housed in Brockton, which is like a melting pot of, immigrants and people of different backgrounds. But we do service all of Massachusetts because we offer virtual, and we just do what we can. Sometimes if we have to meet someone in like Revere or something like that at a local library, we'll make accommodations where we see fit, and whatever accommodates the patient. And if we can't, then we try to refer them to someone who can, that we trust. And we don't just send you to anybody. We try to make sure that we would go to that person.
That's so if one wants to access your service, we talked about who you were, but your agency, your organization. So what is the name of it? How would your website? How would they reach you?
It's called Leading Light Behavioral Health. And the other component is Leading Light Mental Health Clinic. And you can go to myleadinglight.org or myleadinglight.site, SITE.
Amazing. Now, I know you talked about a lot of emphasis, obviously, as a Black woman.
Yes.
But do you also offer services for Black men?
Absolutely. We have male therapists. He's a Black male. He's Haitian American. The one we currently have another one that's Spanish. He's Puerto Rican. So we do have men within the organization. We're always looking to hire and bring on more people, especially our people of color. And believe it or not, I don't have a lot of people that actually apply. Of people of color,
Really?
Yeah. And we really try to, we try to market to that demographic, right? I don't know if people are not just entering the field as much as they used to. There's not a whole lot of money in the field.
No.
I think people think, we're making a lot of money, like you're paid to help us. Well, we're not really paid that much. Believe it or not, it's really not. Like we have to work 20 times as much as someone else. And a lot of times a mental health provider has a second, a third, or fourth job. Just to sustain, living.
Wow.
So we do this work because we're called to do it and because we love it.
Wow. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I thought you at the conference talked about assessments, right?
Yes.
Talk about the assessment, because so many times people just don't know, right? That the way they think, the way they process. You did a whole presentation. Was it neurodivergent?
Neurodivergence,
Talk
yes,
about
yes.
that.
So I do offer neurodivergent testing, and that looks like your ADHD, that looks like autism, and the different spectrums of autism. That can be, we also do mental health evaluation, so anxiety, depression. A lot of times we get referrals for those things when people are court involved or involved with any state agency, particularly that is like, we want you to have a mental health evaluation to see if, these issues, your anger, is that rooted in trauma? Is that rooted in a behavioral health issue, like mental health issue? Or is that just you, flying off the handle? I think a lot of times people don't understand, people of color, that we are very passionate. And so when we talk, again, you see me, I'm talking with my hands. We flare our hands, we raise our voices, we talk loudly, it's just who we are. And they take that as aggression or anger and that sort of thing. And so that's the other thing that separates us from other agencies, is that we, again, that culturally informed, that trauma informed, right? We bring that, we understand that. So when you come to us and you say, yeah, I spanked my child because of X, Y, and Z, our first thought is not to call DCF on you and say, oh my God, I got to report this because you spanked your child.
Right.
It's talking about that generational thing. Like, that's what you were raised to do, right? That's what you believe. We break that down. Let's talk about that. What does that look like? How does that feel? And what other things can we do if not that, right? So we just really try to look at the whole picture. And so the mental health evaluations are not just cut and dry. All of our evaluations take time. They're very lengthy because we want to do our due diligence and making sure that we're not inappropriately applying a label or diagnosis to anyone that is not appropriate. So we also offer substance abuse evaluations, DOT SAP. So that's for anybody that works for the DOT, Department of Transportation. And if they had, like you might get, what is it called? A testing, right? So like one of those random drug testing, and then you test positive for something, marijuana, anything, and they make you go get further evaluation. Well, I'm the person that would do that further evaluation for you, and then just offer those recommendations in terms of what I feel you might need for support. We do R&V evaluations for people who have lost their license, and R&V says, you need an evaluation to get your license back. And before doing this work, I didn't even know that was a thing.
I didn't either.
So they're requiring people to do substance abuse evaluations. They're requiring mental health evaluations just to get people's license back. And that could be for a traffic stop or any kind of anything that the RMV requires or determines is a reason to take your license from you. And so we do those evaluations as well. And so, we just do a whole host of evaluations. The neurodivergence is a newer thing that we're hearing a lot more about. And so a lot of people now, they're watching TikTok and Facebook and they're like, oh my God, I think I have autism. I think I'm on the spectrum to some degree. I think everybody has a little bit of something in them,
Yeah.
But we do, if you're questioning that, you're wondering, what's going on. In particular, I was a person who grew up undiagnosed with ADHD and anxiety, had severe anxiety. Didn't know it my whole life, didn't know that that's what it was. I didn't do so well in school growing up. I was a fighter. I expressed myself through fighting because I didn't know any other way to express myself. I was told that you're a child, stay in a child's place. A child doesn't have an opinion, these sorts of things. So I kept everything in and I let it out aggressively. Also, I didn't understand that I, had dyscalculia. So math was really hard for me to understand looking at these numbers.
That word?
Dyscalculia.
What is that?
It's kind of like it's when you see numbers, math, right? You don't read it the way other people see numbers. You don't see, you just don't read it the same way. You see numbers in it, it's all scrambled and you get a little discombobulated. And so I really had a big problem. And teachers, they just saw me as a problem child. They didn't recommend any further testing. They didn't wonder why or what's going on. So my whole life I've learned ways to just manage these deficits. I coped with it the best way I could. I probably had to stay up studying, if I studied, a lot longer than the average person because I have to read and reread and reread and, I'm getting distracted and, even up to getting my doctorate, it was horrible. I'm like so all over, but I've learned throughout the years, like, how do I manage this, right? I knew that I needed to get the assignments in advance so that I have time to kind of, first of all, and with ADHD, we're huge procrastinators, right? So we like to wait till the last minute. So I have the information in advance. I'll look it over. I'll know what I need to do. Okay, on this day, I have a test. So I have until this day to actually study. And I would wait till the last day and start studying and cramming. But for people that can resonate with that, and you're like, I don't know what's wrong with me because I never did. And I'm like, something's wrong. What is going on? Why am I so different? Why can't I understand these things? And then I finally said, you know what? Let me get a psychological evaluation and find out what's going on. And they said, you have chronic PTSD and you have severe anxiety and ADHD. And all three of those things kind of overlap a little bit. So it's really kind of hard to say it's 100% this or 100% that. But knowing my history, so again, that's looking at the full picture. What is how was your upbringing? Where did you grow up? How did you grow up? Who was in the home? They look at, behavioral things, medical, all the things, right? And they look and they go, okay, well, you dealt with a lot of traumatic things. So definitely we're seeing some trauma. How is that impacting you? Are you still avoiding these things? Are you, having anxiety attacks when you go to certain places? Are you avoiding people, places, and things? These sorts of things. Are you having nightmares? So we look at the full picture and we go, okay, with what you're telling me you have going on, you fit a criteria for XYZ diagnosis. And I like to explain it that way because a lot of people think, well, they like to give labels and just throw this diagnosis on you. Well, the diagnosis is in our world, in the clinical world, we call it like our clinical Bible. Right, because it has everything we need in there to be able to make a informed decision. Could it be biased? Absolutely, and it depends on how you, again, kind of like the Bible. How do you interpret this? How do you see, these different things? Are you asking the appropriate questions to get the right answers that fit this person? And then you apply the diagnosis that meets that criteria. So if I have 5 of these, things, then the DSM says, okay, then I have PTSD, or I might have anxiety, or autism spectrum. And then there's further testing for those things, right? It's a very lengthy process, but to me, it's worth it. It answers a lot of questions. It's not, and I tell people, just because of it, you don't have to own your circumstances. They are what they are, but you determine your circumstances. Don't let them, determine you. And so just because I tell you you have autism doesn't mean that you have to become a certain person or become a certain way because you now have this label. It's just giving you answers. This is why you think the way you think. This is why you behave the way you behave, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, we kind of really, we do the gamut of things. And I just really recommend anyone that's interested, give us a call, go on our website, ask questions. We love it. We love to answer questions. We do free consultations. So if someone's like, I don't know if you're the right fit, I'm interested in what you have to offer, but I still need to, especially as people of color, we're very distrusting. So we always say, it's like a good pair of shoes. You got to try them on before you say, okay, I'm going to buy, right? Just because you might like my personality doesn't mean you might like me as a therapist.
Correct.
Right. So yeah.
Wow. And again, the number for one to call would be
508-690-6069.
Okay, and the website?
myleadinglight.org or myleadinglight.site, SITE.
Amazing. How long have you been in your organization been in existence?
I started the practice about 6 years ago. I think maybe going on 7 years.
Wow,
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And now, again, you are this is your practice. I remember you saying at the conference, people think sometimes because you might be dressed kind of casual, not as doctor.
Exactly.
And talk about that, how sometimes, just your overall practice and how you kind of function with you and your staff.
So I really believe in being who you are, being your authentic self. I do believe in like showing up appropriately, obviously, right? But I'm not going to change just because I have a title, right? I'm a doctor, but I still know where I've come from. I know my background, and I'm never going to forget that. And I want people to see me and say, oh, wow, like I can do that? Like, you mean to tell me? Because I tell people, like, if I had followed the path that others thought that I should be on, I would not be where I am. I grew up in Mission Hill. Wow. 3rd generation project kid.
What?
And so I grew up there till I was about 17. My mother was raised there. Her mother before her was raised in the projects. So it's 3 generations of project kids. And my mom moved out into Brockton when I was an adult when my mother moved to Brockton, but my whole life I lived in Boston up until that point. And again, I seen a lot. I was there during, riots and different forms of segregation. It was the 80s, so it wasn't, the segregation that my parents knew, our parents knew, but it was there. We dealt with, the stigmas and the discrimination, all of that, police brutality. I've seen my cousins, uncles, go through a lot of things. My parents, I've seen them deal with a lot, medically and otherwise. And so starting there, I always knew I wanted to do something that was in a helping profession. I knew I wanted to do something medical, but I wasn't sure exactly. I think if I didn't do this, I probably would have been a surgeon. But unfortunately, I have familial tics, so I shake too much. Don't nobody want me with a scalpel next to them. Thankfully, I chose this. Okay, it's safer. Because But I knew I wanted to do something medical. I don't know if it's because I lived in the heart of the hospitals, right? So like you have Brigham Circle up there, BMC this way, MGH, everything we're right in the heart of all of that. And so that really is what deterred me to go into this field, and just seeing what social workers did for my family, how they've helped. I've seen how case managers will come around and help do things with us kids, get us out the projects, show us something different. And I didn't know that was possible. And the funny thing I tell people, I remember my mother telling me when I was younger, I believe, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong ever, I'm not afraid of that. that because we lived in Mission Hill, and Mission Hill was on the northeastern campus on that property, that we got either some tuition off or we got free tuition to Northeastern, something of that effect, right? Somebody else probably knows better than I do, and I didn't even care. I'm like, you know what, lady, I don't see myself going to college. I barely think I'm gonna make it out of high school the way things are going.
Wow.
And I didn't actually. I dropped out of high school in the 10th grade.
Did you?
I did. I went to Boston High. And, you know, back then you had half day, and then the other half you're supposed to get a job and work. Well, nobody was working. We just got out at our half day, and that was it. But because I fought so much in school, being so angry and aggressive and dealing with the things that I had to deal with at home, I was about to be expelled. And so I said, well, I'm just not going to go to school no more. I was a very sickly kid, had severe asthma. So that was another thing I was dealing with, a lot of absences, things of that sort. And dropped out of school. I went back after I had my oldest son, who's now 20, he's about to be 25 or 26 something. And after I had him, I said, you know what, I can't have this baby and not have a high school diploma. So I did a program online, and I paid for I had to take the courses, but I had to pay for this. I had to pay a tuition to get my high school diploma. And that's kind of how things started for me. And it kind of went on from there. I moved to Brockton and found out about a program called the Choices Program at Massasoit. And funny enough, like I got a pamphlet in the mail or something that said, do you want to get paid to go to school? And I'm like, yeah. Yeah, like of course I do. I don't want to stay on welfare my whole life, you know? So I go and I do this program, and I'm just doing it for the check.
Right.
I'm not doing it because I think I can finish the program. I don't have any confidence in myself. You know, I'm like, well, since I'm here, I might as well take up with, you know, human services in some degree, right? Some type of psychology. Might as well, because I'm here. Yeah. And I did really well in school. I got a scholarship called One Family Scholars, and that at the time was for women who were either homeless or on the verge of becoming homeless. And I fit the criteria because I was a single mother. My children's father was in prison, and so I was a single mother, and I had Section 8, and so that was considered on the verge, because at any point in time I could become homeless, right? And so I qualified for that program, which was amazing. It wasn't your typical scholarship. This kind of carried you year to year, right? You had to keep reapplying, but they gave us something like, I don't even know, $20,000 a year, something of that sort. I might be exaggerating the amount, but anyways, they didn't just give us a check, but they paid our bills. So like my gas bill, my light bill, every month I would get a check for these bills. And the purpose of it was to take away any barriers that would prevent me from getting my education. And so I'm like, okay, I have the Choices Program, I have One Family Scholars, all these things are in my favor. You know, it's all lined up for me. It's up to me to take advantage of these things. And then at the same time, I'm doing really well. I'm a young adult. You know, there's a lot of kids that were a lot younger than me, you know, and now I'm a mom of two, single mom of two. I got to take advantage of this. And that's how it kind of just, this career path started from there. Wow. Yeah, and it was all started with that Choices Program, because before that, I never would have saw myself going to college.
Does that still exist by any chance?
It does.
It does?
It does, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as a single mom, how was that? Again, it's one thing to take care of your bills. It's one thing that you can focus, but you're still having to, you know, having to parent.
Yes.
And as a single parent.
Yes. Yes. You know, it was hard because one of the traumas that I dealt with was the separation between me and my children's father. I was young. I met him when I was 18. He was a little bit older than me. And he already had 2 children. And so now I'm like this young girl who's still living with her mom. I don't know anything about anything, but I thought I did. And I now have this older boyfriend who has 2 children. And I'm like, okay, but I think I'm grown, so let's go with it. And eventually I had to grow up very, very fast. He was still kind of living life in the streets here in Boston, and, you know, had a reputation and things like that. And after a while, I was like, I just can't deal with this anymore. Like it took a toll on me, and I moved to Brockton, and I kind of left the relationship behind. It took me to leave that relationship to decide to go to school. Because before that, my life revolved around him and my children, and I didn't know anything different. And so now we're separated. We're not together. He moved on. He got into a new relationship, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? So I really believed, you know, I didn't have my dad. I didn't know my dad growing up, my biological father. I had my stepfather, who's been there since I was 2, 4. Love him to death. He was the only father I've known forever, and he's dad, right? So he's the only male figure I have. And I'm not leaning on my parents with my children, because I still have this, I got to make them proud. I don't want them to be disappointed, right? I just never wanted to kind of tell them what I was going through, because I didn't want them to be disappointed in me. So now I'm living on my own with my children. I started going to school. My mom babysat all the time. She had my kids all the time, because I had to go to school. I had to work. And I just kind of kept that cycle: go to school, work, go to school, work. My kids, I kept them into sports. That was the substitute for dad not being there. And I mandated 2 sports every season. So basketball, football, baseball, football, whatever it was, right? They had 2 sports. And it's like, so I was a football mom, a soccer mom. I'm always had caravans and trucks to have the football kid, and here we go. We're going off to the games. Brockton is so funny. They know me as the mom that was on the sidelines, running up and down the sidelines, because I was at every game just running up and down with my babies, cheering them on. And it was, it was tough, but I think I was very, very blessed. I was very blessed. I had a lot of opportunities that I really took advantage of. And had I not, I wouldn't be where I am. It really took a village, even with me keeping a lot to myself. I had a village. I had a therapist. And I really just leaned on my people, my village, the One Family Scholars Program. The women in that program, we call each other sisters, One Family Sisters. And a lot of us still talk. My best friend I met from that program. It's like, it just was that program still exists too, but now the mission has changed from my understanding, and now they even include men. So, and I don't think they carry you as long as they did when I was in the program. I think they carried me up to my master's degree.
Wow.
And then I had to start taking loans and things like that. There were women who bought houses and cars off of this program, because they were like, what is your barrier? Let's help you remove that barrier so that you can focus on school.
That is amazing. Again, the name of the program is
One Family Scholars.
One Family Scholars. What an amazing story. So inspiring.
Yeah.
Right. So were you being, how many generations you said was in?
3.
3 generations. Now, are you the first out of those 3 generations to matriculate to the level of education that you have?
I am. I have a cousin that's older than me. She was the first to get her master's degree. I'm the first to get a doctoral degree.
Wow.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
I have this humbleness about me that people just can't stand, because I hear all the time I don't give myself enough praise. And I just feel like I'm blessed and I'm humbled, right? Like I don't boast about it. I don't tell people. It's taken a lot for me to even introduce myself as Dr. Guan, right?
You earned that.
Yeah, I know. And I'm starting to embrace that and really like it. But I think the fear of I don't want people to think I'm better than, or, so it's Mike, but I want people to always see me as being that humble person. Yeah. But I'm starting to embrace, because unless you're going to pay these loan bills, I am who I am.
That's amazing. So your mom, your mom's still with us?
Unfortunately, my mom passed. She passed in 2013. My mom, she has some health issues that she dealt with. Okay. And at the time, she was a single mom. I was very parentified. I'm the oldest child of 5 by my mom. So I had to step up and be second mom. I've always was that and still am to this day. So even with the loss of my mom, my siblings are like, well, we still have you. You raised us too. And it's like, yeah, but I don't want to do that no more.
And so how many other siblings do you have?
So I have, by my mom, there's 2 boys, 2 girls. Okay. And then, like I said, I met my bio dad. And it's a funny story even around that. I had took a ancestry DNA test because my life, I'm hearing, oh, what's your nationality? Where are you from? Your complexion, this, and your hair structure, all the things, right? I'm like, I don't know, and so, excuse me. And then I always had that void of not knowing my dad. Sure. All my siblings knew their dad. Like I said, stepdad, my mom's last 3 children were by my stepdad, and he came with 2 children. So I have 3 siblings by my stepdad, 1 older brother, and then I'm older than the others. And then, so 5 years ago, I met my bio dad on Ancestry, through Ancestry. It took years. I did Ancestry DNA before my mother passed. I did it way before she passed, maybe 2010-ish. And then all of a sudden, around 2014, 2015, I get this message from a young lady who says, "Hey, can you call me? I think we're sisters." And I'm like, "Lady, no, I'm not doing this with you." She's reaching out to me on Facebook. No, I'm not doing this with you. I don't know you. You don't know me. My whole life I've searched for my dad. And every time I did, I hit a roadblock. And so I had got to this place in my life where I had peace and acceptance and said, I'm not looking for this man. It's not meant to be. I'm being protected for some reason. And so I'm just not going to look for him. And so my whole life I was looking for a different man. My mother told me my dad was someone else. And so my sister says, well, our dad went to the services and he knows your uncle so-and-so. And I said, okay, I'm calling you now. Because she has too much detailed information. And I'm like, okay, what's your dad's name? Nope, never heard of him. Nope, I don't know anything about him. Well, he knew your mom. He knew this person. He knew that person. And I'm like, okay, well, she and I decided to meet up. We did. It was like looking in the mirror. She looks identical. I'm older than her. She lives about 20 minutes away from me. She lives in Sharon. I'm in Brockton. She's in the same field as me. Like it was just so ironic, like the things like just lining up the way it did. He grew up in Academy Homes, my mom, Mission Hill. So it was like, okay. And then when I met him, I'm looking again at a carbon copy and I'm like, oh my God. Wow. It was no question, really. I mean, what was the question? Because I had trust issues. So I'm like, I don't know. But I said to him one day, I said, do you mind taking a DNA test? He said, oh my God, I'm so glad you said that because I was going to ask you, but I didn't know how. I'm like, yes, please, let's do this because I can't move forward without a definitive, Ancestry said what it said, but we don't really know if that's accurate. So we do it, but we're not really sure. And we did it. And yeah, he's my dad. Yeah, so I got 2 siblings with him as well. So altogether, there's 10 siblings. I consider them all my siblings.
So you still connected with your dad in your relationship with him now?
Yeah, we're working on that relationship. I have to work through some stuff personally. No fault of his at all. He really has just opened his arms and embraced me 1,000-fold. His family, the same. My sister loves having a big sister. It's just a lot for me because I had really gotten to a place where I had to let go and let God and just say, I'm at peace. And so I think the fear, and then losing my mother, right, was really tough because she's my best friend. And so I think the fear may be around building another close relationship with another parent. And then what if something, the what ifs, right? What if something happens? And then I think there's also some resentment. Even though he didn't know about me. He tells me that I didn't know about you. And I've been looking for a completely different man my whole life, right? Which is why when she reached out to me, I'm like, no, it can't be. Nope, that's not true. That's not my dad, And so I still haven't quite figured out what that thing is because he reaches out all the time. He wants to spend time with me all the time. He loves my children. He's excited to have a great grandson. It's like, yeah, because I just had a grandson back in January. So now, yeah. Thank you. So my dad's like super excited about having his first, grandson because my sister has girls. Right. And so it was like, oh my God, you got boys. You got
The legacy.
So, yeah. He's super excited. He's such a sweetheart. The whole family's blue collared, everybody's doing something. And so I'm like, okay, I see where that comes from, right? Like that drive to be where I'm at. So on his side of the family, there's generations of doctors, nurses, all of that. So, yeah, it's been really, but he talks a lot about, his battles with substance use.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And saying that was a big reason why he thinks he never really found out about me because he, back then was really heavily into substances. He's talks about how he's I think 30, maybe if not 30, almost 30 years in recovery. Wow. He raised my sister as a single dad, even through his struggles. But he's a great man. I just, like I said, I have to work through my own resentments. And I don't know. I think I still also have some resentment towards my mom, unfortunately. And I'll never just get these questions. I'll never get answered, and yeah, well, I'm working on it.
That's beautiful. I mean, so your own journey obviously has informed And continues to inform
1,000%. 1,000%. Absolutely.
how you practice.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. And I saw I have a cousin who was a clinical psychologist,
Mm-hmm.
and she's a pastor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love the balance,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
I mean, it's just it's such a beautiful thing, and we've always been really close as little kids, and so I'm so proud of her. She lives in Bermuda, and again, to the combination of as a Black woman, right, who is a believer and can complement. They're not competing things,
Right. Absolutely. I feel like you have to, especially, I mean, I know people and believe in something.
Yes.
Right. You don't have to believe in what I believe in. I don't have to believe in what you believe in something, because you're helping people. And when we're being in this field, it takes a toll on us. It's a lot. Yeah. We get burnt out. Things get heavy. There's times where I'm like, I got to take a break. And sometimes I don't even know it. My body will shut me down and say, go sit down. You can't do this. And so that's why I think I started to pivot away from doing one-on-one therapy personally. Like, I still have my practice. I have clinicians that my team is amazing group of clinicians. And so they're still doing that work, but I'm pivoting to doing, using my voice a little bit more. I'm doing more talking. I'm doing more, speaking engagements, coaching, consulting, authorship, like those sorts of things. Radio. I love radio. That's something new. I'm loving that. I don't really like the spotlight so much, but talking to a camera is a little bit better than talking in public.
So talk a little bit about the broadcast, right? Because like these platforms, right, particularly that are Black owned. This is Boston's only Black owned FCC licensed multimedia platform that's church based. And so us owning our media, us owning, taking dominion over the spheres of influence, right? So I'm curious, the particular broadcast, that platform, what is the content? What is the audience?
So Urban Heat is the actual the segment that I'm on is R&B radio. So the Ray Royale Experience. So Mr. Ray Royale is a long-term friend of mine. He's a R&B singer in Boston. Very well known, used to be a part of like a very popular group back in the day, and now he's a solo artist, and he just loves R&B music, and he believes in that old school R&B, and just wants to bring the kind of feel back to R&B. And so I went on his show one day for an interview similar to this, and he wanted to know about how I got where I am, because again, he's known me for years, and he knew me back when I was in my single mom days, right? And so he's like, wow, to see, like, and he didn't see me for a while. And I was doing some like content creation. I was speaking and posting videos of like different mental health elements and just like educating our people about different things. And he saw me and he's like, wow, I need to have you on the show. And he's like, I love what you're talking about. I love how you present yourself. Can I interview you? Absolutely. Let's do it. After that, I got a call from him. Have you ever thought about being on radio? I said, no, not really. He goes, think about it, because I would love to have you on the show. He's like, the fact that you are a Black doctor, a real doctor. He's like, and a friend of mine, he's like, I would love to have you, on the show and kind of tie you in somehow. So and it's been a year now that I've been on his show every Tuesday night. I just love it. He gives me creative control to kind of bring my own personality and thing to it. He and I bicker a lot on the show. I think it makes the show fun too, because like we just disagree. He thinks I'm about women and I hate men, and I'm like, no, of course not. I just speak for women because that's what I am.
Your perspective.
And so it's a lot of fun, but it's based on like R&B music. So we listen to a lot of R&B music. We talk a lot about music and what's going on in the music world. But I again also bring in, like, I think yesterday's show I talked about family ties, and when having children, do we have to allow our children to meet extended family? Like, should the family have to know all of your family, even if the family's toxic? You know, and so we talked, it was just like an open conversation about what does that look like, you know, how do we protect our children, you know, and it also, sometimes we think we're protecting them when we're really not, right? We're doing things because we're like, well, I don't want to do things the way my parents did it, so let me do it different. And in fact, some of that can sometimes hurt your children. So we kind of just delve into that a little bit more. So every week I kind of bring something like that to the show, and we just unpack it and talk about it.
That's cool. So is it a live interactive broadcast?
Yes.
People can call in and kind of ask questions
Yes.
directly to the doctor and or
yes,
the host?
absolutely. We're live on Facebook. I go live on TikTok, and then it is on iHeartRadio. So it's live on the radio as well. So yeah, it's live.
That is amazing. It's amazing. So now talk a little bit about this organizational psychology, I think it was called. Talk about that.
So, you know, my area in particular, again, is around looking at diversity within organizations, not your typical DEI stuff, you know, but looking at diversity, looking at inequalities within organizations, and help it. And maybe I'm not the one kind of on the balcony looking at it, trying to figure it out for you, because that's more of like the consulting side of things. I like to do more of like the coaching and just kind of giving you tools and saying, you come to me and tell me, like, you know, there's something, you know, with going on with the culture, you know, of the organization, and we're struggling. Like there's this division. Sometimes you might have, you know, all the Black people kind of stick together, all the Latinos stick, like these sorts of things, right? And organizations see that, but they don't do anything about it, right? And so they're wondering why. They might be wondering why they can't keep their people of color sometimes, or why, you know, the people of color are not. They might start to wonder for themselves, I'm not able to climb that ladder. I keep being told I'm not ready, or, you know, I was written up, so I can't, you know, can't move. There's no movement. And so my role is to come in either with the individual person of color or whomever and talk about what those barriers are. How can we overcome those barriers? I'm not looking to just continue to provide information. I think we have a lot of information available to us. How do we create solutions, actionable solutions? What can we do? And this is also what my books are about. My books are very interactive. They're like workbooks almost, where I'm having you think about situations and write about them in the book and talk about, you know, when was the last time you felt safe to speak up in a board meeting? When was the last time you felt safe enough to speak up for someone who you felt like was being wronged? You know, and it really is rooted in psychological safety and discussions, like those informed discussions. How do you communicate with either people in your organizations, family even, right? Like these tools can be applied in your everyday life. And that's the biggest thing for me, is like giving the tools that people can use immediately in their everyday life. And that's really what for me, the psychological leadership is about. It's like helping people, helping build psychologically safe leaders.
I love that. So Healing Our Land is an organization that was birthed, you've heard a little bit about when I met you, but was birthed out of a response to the issue of HIV and AIDS.
Yes.
Right. So that, a lot of stigma, a lot of, you know, around that. And fortunately, it's evolved, right? And the disease is no longer the death sentence that it was, you know, in the 90s.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Thanks be to God, like you can take medication, but there's still some stigma around it. But now at least you can take medication. I think we're more educated. The fear about, if I hug someone, if I'm like, how do you get it? So thanks be to God, we've come a long way. You can take medication prophylactically to prevent you from even getting it. You know, you know, people who are one's infected, but it's their
partner's not. Yeah.
Right. So there's so many, you know, there's so much more information. I mean, I shared with you and the folks at that conference that I, unfortunately, at that time was in the military and kicked out because of that diagnosis. Called it uncharacterized. So we're now working in a process to upgrade my discharge status. But the reason why I say that is because, so though we pivoted from, we always had that as like, that's the founding of what we did, but being intentional to go to the high-risk, underserved communities, one with those who are incarcerated. And I heard you mention about the incarceral impact that that's even had in your own life directly.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm curious, our organization right now, our work is really led largely by people who are directly impacted, who are behind the wall, coming from behind the wall, as we're working to restore the rights of people serving felony convictions, both in the state of Massachusetts. With that said, the dynamics of people whom are directly impacted and being able to have them lead, but simultaneously address some of the challenges, I'll say, for lack of better words. So I'm so curious because there's a loyalty in many instances, and this notion of post-incarceral syndrome, right? This family, this unity, this bond that brothers and sisters establish from behind the wall is a beautiful thing. But sometimes translating that into coming back into community can be difficult.
Absolutely.
And those of us who've never been behind the wall, trying to honor and give the respect and that leadership, but simultaneously doing what we have to do that's in the best interest of the organization.
Right.
Are those things that your organization can
Let
help
me
us
tell
address?
you, it's so interesting that you mentioned those two things, because I am so surprised that I didn't really pivot. Like, that wasn't the starting point for me. That wasn't the foundation for me. It was, but it wasn't, right? And I'm going to say it was because, again, I was directly impacted by both of those things. And when I used to give my bio, I used to talk about how my upbringing has created who I am, right? And I talked about how, being a third generation project kid, I was exposed to substance abuse, in my family, around my family, HIV/AIDS. I was subjected to incarceration and violence, all of those things, right? And I changed my story